Picture a young man standing at the precipice of adulthood, ready to take on the world. He's got dreams, ambitions, hopes for the future, but fate deals him a cruel blow. His father dies suddenly, leaving him with nothing but debt and a mountain of responsibilities. Faced with this tragedy, most would despair, succumb to anger and bitterness. But not this young man. Instead of succumbing to the shadows, he chose to seek light. He pored over the works of Greece's greatest thinkers, immersing himself in their wisdom. And after years of contemplation and study, he emerged with a new outlook on life, a philosophy that would change the course of history. His name was Zeno of Citium, and what he developed came to be known as Stoicism. He wandered the streets of Athens, sharing his ideas with anyone who'd listen, teaching under a painted portico called Stoic, which gave his philosophy the name Stoicism. Today, his teachings echo through the ages, whispering promises of inner strength and resilience in a world that often feels like it is conspiring against us. But what makes this ancient philosophy so relevant today? Can it help us navigate the complexities of modern life? And most importantly, how can we apply these timeless lessons to our everyday struggles? Join me as we delve into the depths of Stoicism, uncovering its secrets and discovering how this philosophy can be our guide to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. But what really makes Stoicism special? What makes it different from other philosophies, and why should you care? To answer that question, let us dive deeper into the heart of this ancient practice and see how it can change your life forever. When you think about your life, how often do you find yourself worrying about things you have no control over? Maybe it's the weather, the economy, or something happening in the news. These are all things that are outside of our control, and yet we allow them to affect our peace of mind. The Stoics understood this all too well, and they developed a concept called the dichotomy of control to help us focus on what truly matters. They divided everything in life into two categories: things we can control and things we can't. Simple, right? But the implications are profound. Think about your last moment of intense frustration. Perhaps you were stuck in traffic, waiting in a line that wasn't moving, or dealing with a difficult person. What caused your suffering? The event itself, or your interpretation of it? The Stoics would say, without hesitation, that it was your interpretation. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Epicurus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once asked his students to consider the case of a farmer whose donkey had fallen into a well. The farmer, distraught by the situation, starts making plans to save the donkey. On the first day, he considers building a ramp, but it's too much work. On the second day, he thinks about digging a hole to reach the water, but again, it's too much effort. It's only on the third day that he decides to take action. By the time he finishes the rescue operation, the donkey is dead. What was the difference between the first 2 days and the third day? Epictetus asked his students. He didn't make any difference, they replied. Then, said Epictetus, the difference was only in your opinion about whether it was worth the trouble or not. In other words, our suffering is often caused not by the events themselves, but by our perception of them. And this is where the dichotomy of control comes in. The Stoics believed that we should only focus on the things we can control, because that's where our happiness and well-being lie. It's not about denying or ignoring the things we can't control, but about consciously choosing to concentrate our energy and attention on what truly matters. When you apply this principle to your life, you'll find that you have far more power over your happiness than you think. You can't control the actions of others, the weather, or the outcome of a football match, but you can control your reaction to those things. You can choose to focus on the positive, to find opportunities for growth, and to accept the things you cannot change with serenity. But there's more. The dichotomy of control also helps us to prioritize our actions and decisions. If we're constantly worrying about things we can't control, we're wasting our energy and time on futile pursuits. Instead, we should focus on the things we can control and ask ourselves, is this something I have the power to change? If the answer is no, then it's time to let go of the worry and focus on what we can influence. This doesn't mean that we become indifferent to the problems around us. On the contrary, it means that we become more effective in our problem solving and more resilient in the face of adversity. When we understand that our happiness is in our hands, we become masters of our own destiny. Have you ever found yourself caught up in the rat race of material possessions, social status, and fleeting pleasures? The Stoics have some words of wisdom that can set you free from this endless chase. They believed that the only true good in life was virtue, living according to nature and reason, and manifesting wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Everything else, like wealth, fame, and comfort, were considered indifferent. They didn't have any inherent value and could actually be harmful if they became the focus of our desires. Let me tell you a story about a student of Epicurus named Menedemus. He was a wealthy landowner who decided to follow his teacher's advice and simplify his life. He sold his property, gave away his possessions, and started living modestly. One day, while he was sitting in the market, observing the hustle and bustle around him, Epicurus approached him and said, "Do you see that donkey carrying the water jars? Do you know why it's in such high demand?" "No," replied Menedemus. "Because its burden is equal to its strength," said Epicurus, "and so the owner can exploit it fully." Then Epicurus turned to Menedemus and said, "You, too, are in high demand. People want to be your friend because you have money and social status. But you have the chance to live a different life, a life guided by wisdom and simplicity." Menedemus, inspired by his teacher's words, decided to embrace the Stoic ideal of living a virtuous life, free from the distractions of material possessions. But how can you apply this concept to your life? First, ask yourself what your values are and what you want to contribute to the world. Are your goals aligned with your deepest sense of right and wrong? Second, learn to detach yourself from external things like money, fame, and recognition. These things can be helpful, but they shouldn't define your sense of self-worth or happiness. Finally, cultivate inner peace and contentment by focusing on what you have rather than what you lack. When you live a life guided by virtue and inner peace, you become an oasis of calm in a chaotic world. Your inner strength will shine through your actions and inspire others to do the same. You woe and need to chase external rewards because your satisfaction will come from knowing that you're reliving a life of integrity and meaning. Life is full of ups and downs, moments of joy and moments of pain. But how we respond to these moments is what truly defines us. The Stoics taught us that even in the darkest times, we can find strength and wisdom to keep moving forward. Their philosophy is not about suppressing emotions or denying the reality of our experiences. On the contrary, it's about acknowledging our feelings and choosing how to react to them. One of the most powerful tools the Stoics gave us to deal with life's ups and downs is the practice of negative visualization. It's not a fun thing to think about, but it's incredibly powerful. This practice involves imagining worst-case scenarios and preparing ourselves mentally and practically for them. For example, if you're planning a trip, instead of just thinking about the exciting adventures that await you, also consider what might go wrong. Your flight could be canceled, your luggage could get lost, or the weather could take a turn for the worse. By imagining these potential problems, you can proactively come up with solutions and make backup plans. This way, if and when things don't go as planned, you'll be ready to adapt and overcome any challenge that comes your way. Another essential tool for navigating life's ups and downs is the practice of gratitude. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we shift our perspective away from the negative and towards the positive. Take a moment to think about all the things you're grateful for. Maybe it's your health, your family, your friends, or even the roof over your head. By cultivating a mindset of gratitude, you'll be better equipped to handle whatever life throws at you. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to fear and anxiety because it reminds us of the abundance of good things in our lives. Remember, life is unpredictable, and we can't control everything that happens to us. But we do have control over how we choose to respond. By practicing negative visualization and gratitude, we can develop a mindset that helps us navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. And that's what Stoicism is all about. And there you have it, my friends. The 3 fundamental pillars of Stoicism that can transform your life and help you conquer any challenge that comes your way. Remember, you have the power to shape your own destiny. Don't let the chaos of the world dictate your inner peace. Embrace the Stoic philosophy and become the master of your own life.